Right. Okay. So what we were doing, Brad, is we're just talking a bit about business, but before we get to business, we need to develop a career plan in order to get there. And what we've been talking about is how to set yourself up at school here to get ready for that. What I did was I didn't accept any grades lower than 70 because I wanted to get into journalism school. So anything less than 70 I found unacceptable. So I didn't want to be there, so I studied really hard and specialized in some things. I'm just talking about now, while we're here, what do we do while we're at university? We become specialists in something. If you like business, for example, specialize in some classes. Make all your papers about a certain business subject. Okay, like if you want to run we'll say a hot dog stand. I'm not trying to be funny here or anything, but a hot dog stand. So learn about the hot dog industry. Learn about how do you make money at a hot dog stand. I've spoken to a couple hot dog vendors this summer, and they all pretty much say the same thing: location. If you want to be successful, you got to be at the right location. Because the ones I was talking to were all in front of Canadian Tire, and they just said, "It's so dead here. It's so dead here." Huh? And I said, "Well, where's all the action in the hot dog industry?" And they said, "Downtown, at the corner of." They named this one corner because there's some banks there and everything. And they said, "Yeah, those guys there, they're turning like $500, $600 a day," which is big, I guess, for the 2-hour hot dog rush in the lunchtime. But specialize in that. Okay, so now we get out of journalism school, university, and we're done. Now, and we've met our goals. We're looking for that first job now, and we get that first job. Okay, you can find a mentor or mentors. It's up to you. And you don't have to wait until you get out of university. You can start that now. Like I did. I was fortunate enough to meet my mentor at Sask Energy. And for the first 5-10 years of my career, I was in constant contact with him. Every once in a while, I'd shoot him an email and catch up and tell him where I was and just talk. One of the students that I taught, she was going out on her internship after the INCA Summer Institute program. And we were sitting there, we were outside, this is when I smoked. And I said, "You smoke, right?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, when you're at CBC, when you go to the smoking area, talk to people there, meet people. Talk to them about what you're doing, or don't be shy. Don't sit there and smoke by yourself." So she was out at this internship assignment, and she's having a cigarette in the smoking area one day there, and this lady comes up to her and asks her for a light. So she gives the lady a light, and then they started talking, and the lady says, "So what are you doing here?" And she said, I'm here, I'm a chase producer for this show, and I'm doing this, I'm doing that." And the lady sized her up and said, "You got a reel?" A reel in the business means your tape, your stories, if you're TV. And Connie said, "Yeah, I got one." And she said, "Well, why don't you send it to me?" So Connie gets her reel together and sends it to her, and turns out the lady's the executive producer of Street Sense for CBC. And likes Connie's look on TV and tells, Connie, we'd like you to audition for Street Sense. So Connie auditioned, got the job, became one of the hosts at Street Sense, and hasn't looked back. Her career at CBC has continued since then. And it's all because she smoked. But it was at the right place at the right time, but also meeting people at your newfound job, your internship. All of you are going to be going on internships. So when you're at the internship, find the sharpest knife in the drawer, the best reporter in the newsroom, go and talk to that person when they're not busy. That's why I said the smoking area, because when I was in Edmonton, I used to go to the veranda on the 3rd floor, and there was one guy in particular that I liked. Nobody liked him because he was really conservative, and some people even accused him of being a bit racy. But I liked him because of how he was able to get stories. I liked his writing. I liked his phone skills. And I just thought I can learn a lot from this guy. I don't have to like what he writes, but I can learn a lot from him. So I used to, whenever I see him get out to go for a smoke, I'd grab mine and go out there and smoke, and we'd start talking. We developed a dialogue, a relationship. And it got so later where he'd come walking out, and he'd walk by my desk, let's go. Because he liked the fact that he had someone to listen to his stories. And I soaked all that stuff up. So find the best worker in your shop. Be a reporter, or if you're in communications, find the best person there and learn from them. Learn how they write. Learn how they get their creative process going. I used to sit and listen to this guy talk on the phone. I'm working on my own stuff, but at the same time I'm listening to him, and I heard him one time asking about this guy. He was doing a character development for his piece. So what kind of suits the guy wear? Oh yeah. What would he spend? $1,800, $2,500? Oh, okay. What kind of car he drive? Because he was trying to set this guy up to be, a big spender, somebody who dressed flashy and threw his money around and drove a hot car, And sure enough, that's what he got, from this guy, because you were talking about a story about Briex. Briex is a diamond mine fraud, and the guy who was responsible for the fraud played the part that he had all this kind of money when really he didn't. But that's what I learned from that. So every place I've ever worked, I've always found the sharpest knife in the drawer. And I got to know them and I learned from them. Made me a better reporter, made me a better writer, made me a better thinker. Figuring things out. Okay, so that's what you do when you get into your internship. Now, as you're here at the university, you're going to start going to events, you're going to start meeting people. Buy a Rolodex and start developing a contact base. Write their names down, their phone numbers, their email addresses, like them on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. You got those tools now. In my day, all I had was a paper Rolodex and a business card file. But my file box was full all the time. I have to keep pulling names out, people that I haven't talked to. I still keep the cards, or if I knew they switched jobs, I'll pull them out and I'll just put them away, but I still keep that stuff. Because you're developing contacts. You're going to need contacts in your career or in your future business developments forever. You're going to need to know these people. When people travel around with me and I'm walking through places, whoever I'm traveling with, usually says, man, you know a lot of people, or a lot of people know you. And that's it. And I worked at that for 20 years, for people to remember who I am, for people to know who I am and know what I do. And I remember them too. I may not remember their names, but there's little ways that I find that out. Or sometimes I'll just get humble and I'll just ask them, I'm sorry, I forget your name, what's your name? And they'll tell me, and then as soon as they tell me, I remember the information of who I know this person from or where I know them from. So start developing your data bank of contacts. Keep the business cards. Write down little notes to yourself to remember who they are and why you think they're important. When I was in the newsroom and I was short of story ideas, I'd just go through my Rolodex and say, okay, I haven't talked to so-and-so in quite a while, so I'll phone them up. We start talking. I may or may not get a story idea, but then I'll go to the next one until I start generating some leads. This morning I called a contact about a half hour outside of Regina and just talked to her for a few minutes, and she started telling me all these events that are coming up, and I needed to know about these events because I'm gonna probably do some work on them and put them in my newspaper. Okay, so number 3, mentors. Number 4, career moves, decisions. Should I take this job? What should I do? Is it gonna help me? Does it fit into my plan? Remember, we got a career plan. You know what we want to do. I went to Edmonton after journalism school, worked for the Edmonton Journal for 5 months, came home and did some freelance work and got a job with the government, economic development, because I need to make some money. I liked it but wasn't crazy about it, but I was doing it. Some openings came up at CBC and I applied. At the same time, some openings came up with the Department of Agriculture. I had an offer from CBC Radio to go to get a 6-month contract with them, which would pay me something like, I think, $28,000 a year. And then I had a job offer from the Department of Agriculture to train and learn how to manage their website. And that was a $50,000 a year job. And I'm thinking, oh boy, okay, what do I want to do here? I can go and be this journalist at CBC and make nothing really, enough to pay my bills, only for 6 months, that's the guarantee. Or I can go